Hey guys, welcome to Biology 2210. This is Dalton House class. Today I'm gonna go over the full dissection of cats. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna go over the arteries. And so yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, now going over this image, I found it online. In cats, they also have the epiglottis, which is located over here. That is called the epiglottis. And to make time shorter, I'm just gonna write the acronym. So this is the epiglottis of the larynx. Underneath the epiglottis, this shaped little thingy right here, that's the Adam's apple, also known as the thyroid cartilage. And then the model doesn't have it, but underneath the thyroid cartilage is the cricoid cartilage. And then we get to the trachea, which is this structure. So this whole structure is the trachea. I want to say something before I continue. So if somewhere in the exam where we're labeled over here, if it's asking for the organ, the answer is going to be trachea. However, if it's asking for the structure, it's going to be tracheal cartilage. The reason why it's called the tracheal cartilage is because your trachea is, well, the cat's trachea has this cartilage like structure like this. So again, if it's asking for the structure, the answer is tracheal cartilage, and if it's the organ, it's just trachea. Now going downwards in the trachea, it goes to the lungs. And the cats, they have different lobes of lungs, but Dodenhoff doesn't want us, well, she doesn't require us to know all the lungs, so we could just group them in one. So all of these lungs right here, you just have to know them as lungs. Okay, now this big structure, of course, is the heart. So you can just put heart over here. And then this structure right here, usually sitting on top of the heart and literally next to the trachea, somewhere over here, this is called the thymus. Okay? And then beneath all of those organs is the muscle called diaphragm. Okay? Nice. Oh, right. Before I continue, the model again doesn't have it, but like posterior to the trachea is the esophagus. The esophagus leads to the stomach. It goes down through here, through the diaphragm, and eventually to the stomach. But we'll get there eventually. I'll explain more. So again, this is a cleaner model. I'm pretty sure the cat model in the exam won't look the best, but yeah. So here again, whoa, what is this? What did I do? Okay, my bad. That was my fault. So this model right here, again, this right here is the thyroid cartilage, and beneath the thyroid cartilage is the cricoid cartilage. But the model doesn't have it. And again, this is the trachea. If it asks for the organ, the answer is trachea. If it's asking for the structure, it's tracheal cartilage. Posterior to the trachea is the esophagus. Let me just write over here, where it leads to the stomach right here. See that little thing right here? That's the stomach. That's where the esophagus leads to. Okay, now going back to the trachea leads to the lungs over here. Again, the cats have many lobes of lungs, but we could just identify them as one group. So we could just name it as lungs. Of course, this thing right here is the heart. And again, the model doesn't have it. They forgot the spleen, but the spleen usually sits somewhere here, where I'm coloring right now. Okay, and then again, this little muscle thing is the diaphragm. And I think that's one good way to identify if it's a liver or a lung, because it looks pretty similar. The lungs right here, the lungs here, and the liver over here looks pretty similar. So I think the diagram is a good way to identify if it's a lung or a liver. Okay, let me erase this real quick. I'll probably cut it off. It's pretty quick. Okay, so again, oops, my bad guys. This thing right here, diaphragm, right? Beneath the diaphragm is the lobes of liver. See these little structures? That's the liver. And then you see that little green spot right here? That's the gallbladder. And if you dig in deeper, obviously you can't go dig in deeper with this picture, but if you like go through deeper in there, you will find the common bile duct, and it's the same color as the gallbladder. So again, the stomach, right? Behind the trachea, goes to here, boom, we meet the stomach. So this right here is the stomach. This little organ-like looking thingy is the spleen, and this yellow spot, the huge one, is the greater omentum. Nice. Okay, now going over the real model. Again, it looks pretty similar, right? So here, diaphragm. Over here, these little lobe thingies, that's the liver. And then it's usually colored green. This model is kind of weird, but again, this is the gallbladder, And if you dig in deeper into the liver, you meet the common bile duct. So then here, this is the stomach. You can't really see the esophagus going to the stomach, but just know right here, this is the stomach. Okay, that was horrible. And then here, this little structure, organ, this is the spleen. And then this yellow spot, this little fatty like thingy is the greater omentum. Cool. Okay, quickly identifying these again. This is the diaphragm, right? And beneath the diaphragm is the gallbladder and the liver. The lobes of liver. And then here, as you can see, goes here, boom, we meet the stomach, right? We're in the stomach now. You see this little structure right here? Like, right there? That's called the pyloric sphincter, or it can be known as the pyloric valve. So before we go in, before we go to the small intestine, I want to identify these little thingies underneath the duodenum. So you see this yellow like thingy over here? That is called the lesser omentum. Oh, let me identify this real quick. This is the stomach. Sorry. And then this structure right here, that's called the mesentery. Along with this one too. Right here, this is the mesentery. Right? And then this right here is the pancreas. Jeez. Pancreas. Okay, now going into the small intestines. Again, the food goes to the stomach, right? It meets the pyloric sphincter or the pyloric valve, and it goes to the duodenum, which is the first stage of the small intestines. Right? This is the duodenum. We then go to the jejunum. The thing is with the jejunum, Dodenhoff said that we don't have to know the jejunum for the cats because it's going to be impossible to identify it. However, we are going to have to know the duodenum and the ileum. So going over the ileum, at some point the jejunum reaches the ileum. So right here, that's the ileum. And yeah, those 3 stages of small intestines are pretty much it. Okay. So then here, we meet the ileocecal junction, which is right here, right? That's the ileocecal junction. This thing right here is the cecum, right? And that's pretty much it with the intestines here. Oh, right, and this one's right here, the urinary bladder. Yeah. Okay, now going over the real model. Again, this is the diaphragm, right? Diaphragm right here, and then the lobes of liver over here. This little structure right here, that's called the gallbladder. Okay, now going over the stomach. This is the stomach, right? We meet the stomach right here. So let me just label your stomach, where it then meets the pyloric sphincter. Now the first stage of the small intestines is the duodenum right here. Okay, now before I continue with the small intestines, let's identify these structures. So again, this here, I'm gonna try my best to draw it. Right here and right here, that's the mesentery. See where I can label it, mesentery right here. Okay, and now you see that little structure right here? That's the lesser omentum. And then the one right here in the middle between the mesentery is the pancreas. Okay, cool. Now going back into the small intestines, again, right here, this is the duodenum, right? At some point, we'll reach the jejunum. In this photo, it's kind of hard to identify, but the picture that I'm looking at right here is the jejunum. Like, this is the jejunum, according to the picture that I'm looking at here. And then here, at some point, we meet the ileum. This is the ileum. And then here is the large intestines. So in the large intestines, we have the ileocecal junction, which is not in our lab list, but I think it's pretty good to know. And then here's the cecum. Ileum. And then here, that little thing, that's the urinary bladder for the cats. And then underneath that, you see that little structure going like this? That's the urethra. Oh. Okay, now going over the bladder of the cats, or the, yeah, you know what, yeah, I'm gonna just say bladder. I don't know if that's the right terminology to use, but yeah. So going over the kidney first, I want to identify this. So here, you see that little, I'm gonna make this smaller. I'm gonna use this one too. So you can see right here, that's the pyramid of the kidney. And then in a bigger substance, like going like that, going like that, going like that, that's called the renal medulla. And then outside the renal medulla, going like this, that's called the renal cortex. Okay, now I've gone over the kidney, so let's just get into it. So again, this is the kidney, right? Kidney. And then this little structure going down to the urinary bladder is the ureter. And then here's the urinary bladder, of course. And then going downwards right here, that's the urethra. Okay. Okay, going over the real model, again, this little structure here, that's the urethra, right? Over here, urinary bladder. And then that little structure going down right here, that's called the ureter. And of course, this thing is the kidney. My bad. Okay, now I've gone over the full dissection of the cats. Let's get into the veins and the arteries. I made a previous video of this like 2 weeks ago. I think it's best to go over that first before going over this. But yeah, let's just get into it. Okay, so going over the kind of model, I'm gonna put the picture of the drawn veins and arteries over here. Okay, going over the veins first. This right here, that's called the superior vena cava. That's the superior vena cava. Let me just make this bigger so it's easier to look at. Oh crap, that's too big. You know what? 5 is good. So here, this is the superior vena cava, right? Branching off, the first, that's the azygos vein. And then the second one branching off, that's the internal mammary vein. Now going on from here, it doesn't matter if you're going left or right because they're both gonna have the same name. They just have different directions. So going this way, oh crap, I drew the pointer the wrong way. This is a vein, so it's going into the heart. My bad. So it's going this way. But this right here, this and this, that's called the brachiocephalic vein. Now branching off the brachiocephalic vein, we have the if you're looking at from this direction, this is the right subclavian vein. And then branching off over here, that's called the axillary vein. And then branching off even more, that's the brachial vein. One thing to memorize the axillary, so you don't confuse these three. The axillary is typically under the armpit of the cat. And the brachial vein, it's easier to tell because it's literally in the arm of the cat, right? And then the subclavian vein over here is typically also, what's it called? It's also typically like in closer to the ribs right here, as you can see. Sorry, that took so long to take out, but yeah. Okay, now going upwards, this right here is the external jugular vein. As you can see, this little structure, you might be wondering what that is. That's the internal jugular vein. I think it's still good to know because you might confuse the external with the internal, which I highly doubt because the external has more veins popping out, right? But I'm pretty sure y'all got it, man. Okay, anyways, this right here, I'm just going to put like a X just to tell you guys it's not part of the lab list. Okay, so branching off here, this is the transverse jugular vein. And then the cat, I don't know why, but the model doesn't have it like this. But anyways, going inwards of the cat, this is the anterior facial vein. And going outwards, that's the posterior facial vein. Okay, that should be it with the veins in the top of the cat. Again, they both have the same name, just different directions. So if they ask you, what might this be, then that's going to be the left side of the face, because we're looking at it from a different view. So their left is your right, if that makes sense. So this right here is the left external jugular vein. Okay, that was just a weird jab session. Let's just keep going. Okay, now going over the arteries, I'm going to put the picture right here. Cool. Now going over the arteries, this thing going outwards is the aortic arc. Aortic arc. Now the first thing branching off, there's two of them. This is the brachiocephalic artery, or the brachiocephalic trunk, and this one right here is the left subclavian artery. And going with the left subclavian artery, the thing branching off is called the internal mammary artery. And then here, this is the axillary. I think I drew it too far, but This is the left subclavian, axillary, and then brachial artery. Okay. The picture doesn't have it, but let me just draw it like this. Okay, so cool. Now going over the right side, here is the left common carotid artery. Left common carotid artery. This right here is the right common carotid artery, and this here is the right subclavian vein. And then branching off the right subclavian vein is the internal mammary artery. And then branching off even more is the axillary artery. And then branching off even more is the brachial artery. Okay, cool. Now going over beneath the abdominal, beneath the heart. This right here is called the abdominal aorta, and this right here is called the, This is the inferior vena cava, and this is the abdominal aorta. So in this case, this thing right here is the abdominal aorta. I'll cut it off. Don't worry. Okay. So again, as I mentioned, I'm going over the veins, right? This thing right here is the abdominal aorta. Now, as you can see in the picture, the first thing branching off did I say abdominal aorta? This is the inferior vena cava. Inferior vena cava. And then the first thing branching off the inferior vena cava is the renal vein. Renal vein. As you can see, the renal vein is connected into the kidney. Okay. So then the like that little thing, like branching off again, this is the spermatic/ovarian vein. I still don't know how to explain it. I didn't get a clear answer from Donnenhoff. So yeah. Okay, now going into the downwards over here, like the leg section, the first thing branching off, that's called the common iliac vein. And then branching off even more is the external iliac vein. And then the thing going inside like this, that's the internal iliac vein. Cool. Okay, now going over this side, I want to say something before we begin. So you see these hashtags that I drew? Each of these hashtags represent a organ. So in this case, this organ in the bottom is the intestines. This organ right here is the stomach. And then this organ right here is the liver. Okay, now let's identify the veins. So the vein coming off the small intestines, going this way, or the intestines, this is the superior mesenteric vein. And then branching off from this side, this is called the gastrosplenic vein. And then branching off to this side is the hepatic portal vein, where it goes to the liver. The liver then goes into the hepatic vein. The hepatic vein is this one, as you can see right here. These are the hepatic veins. They connect from the liver. And that should be it with the vein section from the stomach area or the bottom area of the cat. Okay, now going over the artery. Again, let me just identify these. So this big structure right here is the inferior vena cava, and this big red structure here is the abdominal aorta. Okay, now going over the first thing branching off the abdominal aorta. Let me just erase this. This right here is the celiac trunk. Now going upwards right here, that's the hepatic artery. This one right here is the left gastric artery. And then continuing here is the splenic artery. And notice the names. The names play a big part as to where they connect. So in this case, this one, the hepatic, goes to the hepatic portal system. This one right here, the left gastric, it goes to the stomach. And over here, it's called the splenic artery, therefore going to the spleen. Cool. Now going downwards even more, this right here is called the renal artery. They connect into the kidney. They supply blood to the kidney, or they deliver whatever stuff to the kidney. And yeah. And then going like transverse like this, that's the spermatic/ovarian artery for cats. Cool. Now, going downwards even more, this right here is called the external iliac. Is it the external iliac artery? External iliac artery. And then going downwards here is the femoral artery. Yeah, it is the external. Okay. So that is the external iliac artery. External iliac artery, femoral artery. Now going downwards like even more, this right here is called the internal iliac artery. And that should be it with the arteries for the bottom portion.